So you're thinking about buying a home down here in Phoenix, Arizona, and here is a list of 18 different things that you absolutely must consider when buying a new home here in Arizona. We've been selling homes here for 4 years, and our team has sold over 6,500 homes. So throughout all of us, this is the collective list that we've put together that you absolutely must know when moving to Phoenix. So starting off at number 18, this one kind of throws a lot of people off, is that a lot of homes have fireplaces down here. You would not think that it would be in a lot of homes just with how hot it gets here in, especially in the summers. But one thing to consider is that in the wintertime, it gets very, very chilly. The lows can get all the way down. We just had a freeze warning not too long ago. So your lows can get into, 34, 35, especially if you get more up into Cave Creek and Scottsdale. You're going to be running that furnace more often, and you're going to be, sitting around that fireplace. So it's very, very common that homes have fireplaces down here. Some people, they want to take them out, but just know that if you're buying a home here, a fireplace is going to be standard in almost every single home that you purchase here. Now, number 17, so a lot of homes here in the Phoenix area, almost all of them are going to have a rock yard. Now, especially like in the front, we're gonna pass a couple just as we're making our way on this tour, but it's very, very common that you get like a desert landscape and a rock front for your landscaping, especially so like new homes like this one behind me. One thing to note too is that a lot of these homes come barren, so it's just completely dirt in the background, so it's up to you. It's nice because you have your choice of what you want to do in the back, but just know that a lot of new homes, they're going to come barren, or they're going to just throw some rock in the back. Now, Phoenix isn't as strict on like residential water as Vegas. So my aunt-in-law, she lives in Vegas, and they're giving them huge incentives to rip out all of their grass and go switch to rock. Phoenix hasn't quite gone to that extreme yet. Residential water use is only about 10% of the greater, all of the water use in Arizona. There we go. So it's not as bad as Vegas, but just know, that might be coming in the future. So for now, most yards are going to be rock. Turf is, more common as well. Turf can get very, very expensive. So if you're thinking about, okay, we'll buy a new house and then we'll put in turf, it can be 10, 15, 20, 30 grand, depending on how much you want. So turf can get very, very expensive. That's why most people opt for a rock yard, just like this brand new house that just got built right behind me. So it's something to consider. Most yards are going to be rock. Now, number 16, so this is gonna kind of throw you off a little bit if you're from like the Midwest or especially the Northeast. You're not gonna find hardwood floors basically anywhere down here. It's very, very rare that you ever come across a home that actually has hardwood floors. I'm not sure exactly the reasoning behind it. My parents, my wife's parents back home in Nebraska, they have hardwood floors, and I think they look so clean. Down here, you're gonna see mainly tile and some like laminate or like luxury vinyl tile, but most of it is going to be like a porcelain tile. You really don't see carpet too often down here. My theory is that it gets so hot here in the summer that a lot of people just opt for tile because it keeps the room a little bit cooler. That's my theory. I have no idea if that has any merit or not. But just know that if you're buying a home down here, almost every single home that you're going to see is going to have either tile or some kind of laminate all the way throughout. You're really never going to see hardwood. I shouldn't say never. It's going to be very rare that you see hardwood floors in the new house. A different and kind of unique type of floor that we do every once in a while see is bamboo. It kind of looks like wood. It's honestly, it has a nice little shine on it. So I think it looks really good, but most people, again, like I said, they just kind of opt for tile. Rarely carpet in like the living rooms. You'll see carpet in the bedrooms, but for the most part, it's just going to be tile all the way throughout homes here in Arizona. Now, number 15. So Arizona and Phoenix specifically has very, very hard water. There's a ton of calcium in it. So why is this important if you're thinking about buying a house? If you love like soft water, you're going to absolutely make sure that you have a soft water installation on your new home. Some builders are putting in loops so that it makes it easier. Some of them are not, so it's a little bit more frustrating because then the plumber's got to come in and make all that plumbing changes for when you do put that in. But there's a ton of calcium buildup that gets on like all of your faucets, build up in the water heaters, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in a sec, but just know that the water is very, very hard. A lot of people choose to have water come and delivered so that they can drink that. Obviously the tap water, you can drink it, but most people, they tap to either go through like their sink, or they have a water company come in and that's where they get their drinking water. So the water is very, very hard here. It causes a ton of buildup on the faucets, so it's gonna be some additional cleaning that you're going to have to put on your shower heads, faucets, and all of that. So definitely something to keep aware when you're buying a house down here in Phoenix. Very, very hard water here in the Phoenix area. Now, moving on to number 14. This is actually very ironic because right behind me, this house actually has it, but none of the neighbors do. Most of the houses down here do not have gutters on the house. It rarely rains down here in Phoenix, and honestly, when it does, it's just an absolute torrential downpour. So, you know, like a house right here, you're not gonna see gutters, very common. So that's nice, you know, a little bit less maintenance that you have to do for your house. One of the most important things though that you're gonna wanna make sure that if you're buying a new house here in Phoenix is that the dirt is grounded away from the house. That way when it does rain, at least the rain water kind of runs off. So again, here's a perfect example. There's no gutters behind me. I'm not exactly sure of why I would think that, you know, even when it rains that you wanna get the water and push it as far away from the house as possible, but it is not, it's very, very rare that you have gutters down here. So again, it's nice from a maintenance perspective, one less thing that you have to worry about, but just know, again, if you're buying new houses down here or just any house, it's very, very rare that you're gonna have a gutter. So just make sure that the dirt and everything slopes away, and you should be good to go for when it does absolutely torrential downpour here in the summers. All right, number 13. So this one will actually surprise you. So Phoenix has a ton of termites. Now, they're very different termites than what you're probably thinking if you're watching this from like the Midwest or the Northeast. When I hear that from being from Nebraska, like that scares the living daylights out of me as a homeowner. In Phoenix, it's so common. It's about, in our experience of selling homes, it's about 1 in 2 to 1 in 3 homes when we go through the inspection period has termites that are found on the property. So these are subterranean termites. They're super easy to mitigate and take care of. If it does come up when you are purchasing a home, I would say 99% of the sellers are going to treat that before you actually move in. We'll touch on that a little bit more in a second as well, so make sure you stay tuned. But it is very, very common that homes down here that you're gonna have subterranean termites. All they do is they drill down and, actually I'm not exactly what, I know they drill down into the concrete and spray some stuff, but every home down here, it's not a matter of if you're gonna get termites, it's when. So just something to keep in mind that, you know, every couple years, you just want to have a termite company come out and just kind of inspect the property. That way you are aware that there's no termites on property. So if you're buying a house down here, it's not a matter if, it's a matter of when you are going to get termites. It's very, very common. So if you're buying a house, don't freak out if the home that you're buying has subterranean termites. They're extremely common and they happen all the time. So number 12, here's something that you absolutely must know if you're buying a home here in Arizona and especially Phoenix, is these homes have 0 storage. It is remarkable. I have no idea why they do it. I don't know if it's just they're so tight on land, you know, and you can see how close they build homes together here. But Arizona homes have absolutely no storage. It gets so freaking hot in the attic, so a lot of people don't opt to put stuff in the attic. Honestly, most people, what they do if their HOA allows it, they just store a lot of their stuff in the garage and then they park outside. I don't really recommend doing that just because of how hot it gets and it can really damage, you know, the exterior of your car paint. So if you can, just try to be as lean as possible when you're moving down here, because I'm telling you, whenever you're moving around the Phoenix houses, you're gonna notice there's 0 storage anywhere. So anytime that I see like a 2-story house and there's, you know, storage underneath like the stairs, that's a huge plus. So just whenever we tour homes together, you'll definitely notice I always try to point out any storage. Build like shelves in the garage, do as much as you can to try to get additional storage, because standard Arizona homes, you are not going to get any storage at all. My parents in Nebraska, they have this like attic extra space room, and it's just filled with like Christmas stuff, Halloween, Easter, you name it, all that stuff is in that room. That is completely rare in Phoenix, and you're not gonna find that. So Arizona homes, if you're moving here, just know that there's absolutely no storage in any of these homes. Now guys, before we get to number 11, if you like this video so far, make sure you click the like button and comment down below. That lets us know that we're putting out good content that you enjoy. And guys, in this channel, we cover everything there is to know about moving to Phoenix, Arizona. So click the subscribe notification, that way you don't miss any videos. Guys, my name is Eric, and I help people just like you that are thinking about making a move down here to the beautiful, and today not so sunny, but usually the sunny Phoenix, Arizona area, guys. So if you're thinking about making a move, guys, pause the video. Our contact information is down below. We want to help you. We want to hear from you. We moved here from Nebraska about 4 years ago. It's completely changed our life, and I want to help you change yours. So pause the video, reach out to us, and our contact information is down below. Now, number 11, one thing you absolutely must know is that new homes, especially if you're buying a newer home on like the outskirts, Goodyear, Gilbert, Queen Creek, these lot sizes for these homes are going to be really, really small, 6,000, 7,000 max. Now the neighborhood that I'm walking in, this is a little bit higher end. These are probably looking about 8 to 9,000, so just under a quarter acre. For my parents in Nebraska, everybody there has about a third of an acre in the western side of Omaha. So it's a big, big change that when people are moving down here to Phoenix, you'll notice, I'm telling you instantly, they are trying to get as many homes into these subdivisions as possible. And a lot of times you're gonna be left with a very, very small lot and kind of crammed in a little bit. So if you're moving down here and you want a big size lot, make sure that you let us know, because otherwise you're gonna be shell-shocked when you see how close some of these lots are together. So just know that if you're moving down here, especially if your price range is give or take, right? If it's within about the $400,000 to $600,000 price range, you're gonna be greeted with a lot of smaller lots. Like I said, this is a little bit higher end neighborhood, so you can see that these lots are a little bit bigger, but for the most part, if you're moving into like a newer development area, especially if you're not in like the old part of Phoenix or Scottsdale or Arcadia, just know that your lot is going to be very, very small. So if you are thinking about making a move and you want a little bit bigger yard, make sure that you tell the person that you're moving with, hey, we want more space, because you're gonna get greeted with some really, really small lots, and it's something you absolutely must know when moving here. All right, now moving on to number 10. Now this goes into more of when you're actually purchasing the home. You do get a 10-day inspection period. So let's say that you love this home right here, and you go under contract. You have 10 days to figure out to get a general inspector out there, get a termite company, make sure there's no termites like we talked about earlier. But you got 10 days to make sure that the property is everything that you want and everything looks good. At the end of that, you can tell the seller, hey, here are a couple items that we want you to fix. That's because every home in Arizona is sold as is. That means the seller's under no obligation to make any improvements to the property. But you do have that 10-day inspection period where you can say, hey, we found a leak in the roof, or we found the kitchen sink leaks, or whatever, or the water heater's older, or it's the AC is not operational. Any of those items, and we'll walk you through it. But just know that you do get a 10-day inspection period in the state here of Arizona. And by the end of it, let's say there's just way too many issues, and you're like, Eric, we got to get out of here. You can get out of that contract, and not the only thing that you would owe is the termite company to come out. And then if you hired a general inspector, which down here in Phoenix, it's going to be about $400 total, kind of depending on the size. If you're buying a 7,000 square foot home, the inspection might be a little more. But for the most part, it's going to be about $400 between the termite and the inspection here in the greater Phoenix area. So you get that 10-day inspection period. So what we tell clients, if you're even remotely thinking about buying that home, just submit an offer. You still have 10 days to think about it. The last thing that you actually do down here is buy your home, so you have some time, and you get that 10-day inspection period where you can ask the seller, hey, here's a couple items we want you to fix, and then it's up to that. Then it's just negotiation from that point. But you do get a 10-day inspection period, but every home in Arizona is sold as is, and it's in its current condition when you see it. All right, number 9. This is going to probably throw you off if you were from the Midwest or any like Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, or the Northeast. Most homes down here, the ideal direction is going to be north and south. That way, because every morning the sun would be just going over your house. If it's east and west, it's going to be coming in through the front and then leaving through the back, or vice versa, depending on how it sits. So again, I'm from Nebraska, and my dad and my brother, we always talked about, if we buy a house, we have to make sure that it is not facing north, because if it's facing north, you're not going to get sunshine in the winter, and you're going to have snow and ice on your driveway all year round. So my parents, that was a huge thing when they bought. My brother, was a big thing, and we have a rental house in Nebraska. It was important for us too. So down here in Arizona, it's not as big of a deal, because you get 300 days of sunshine every year, and it's going to be hot regardless. But it is some way that you can mitigate some of the heat getting inside of your house, is that if it's facing north-south versus if it's facing east-west. One thing to note is, if you are, east-west, and you are tired of that sunshine, one thing you can put is some sunshades. So they just go on the exterior of the house here, and they're only about $100 to $150 per screen, but they make a world of a difference. It's going to make your house feel a little bit darker, but it makes a huge difference in keeping out some of that excessive heat that comes through in the summer. We put it on in our condo, and it was an absolute game changer. So just a couple little tips that if you are buying down here and your sun gets a lot of natural light, one way to mitigate it is to get those sunshades up and be on your way, keeping your house nice and cool in the summertime. So north and south is preferred, but it's not as big of a deal as if you were buying in a northern, colder climate. All right, guys, number 8, we got 8 left, so you're going to want to stick around all the way to the end because the last 2 are going to save you a ton of money and be very, very different than other homes in different parts of the country. So make sure you stay tuned. Next thing we want to touch on is insurance premium. So if you're buying a home here in Arizona and especially Phoenix, one of the best parts is we don't really have natural disasters. The only natural disaster that Arizona technically has, I guess, is earthquakes, but you rarely get them. But outside of that, it's just heat. So if you can deal with the heat, you're not going to get natural disasters. That's why Arizona home insurance premiums are a little bit lower than most of the country. So again, I'm from Nebraska. We have very, very high premiums there because you got tornadoes, you got ice, you got heavy windstorms. Here in Arizona, the only time you're going to really get that is July and August during monsoon season. And even then, most of these homes are built to withstand a lot of the weather that we get here. So no natural disasters down here in your insurance premiums. They average about $200 to $225 a month. There's an article floating around the internet right now saying how much insurance has risen in Phoenix. Well, it makes sense. You know, they're saying it's up about 60% here in the last couple of years. It makes sense with how much growth and how much homes have appreciated here in the Phoenix area. They got to make sure that they cover their costs, that if anything happened, they can replace it for what the value is. So it makes sense, and it's just clickbait out there. But just know most home insurance plans are going to be anywhere from $200 to $250 on average here in the Phoenix, Arizona area. So all things considered, not too bad, not too bad. Now, moving on to number 7. This one, I'm looking around this neighborhood right now and I don't see any that I could show you, but it's very, very common that they build AC units, especially some of the older homes, think 50s, 60s, 70s. A lot of these AC units are actually built on the roof. I was speaking with a contractor and I was like, hey, does that, affect the AC unit at all? He said, no, the only thing that makes it a little bit harder is, getting up there and servicing it because you got to go through and you got to get it cleaned and, blown out because you get a lot of dust down here, obviously. But he said there's no really effect of like direct sunlight. But just know that if you are buying a house and the AC unit is on the roof, one thing you absolutely must know is that when you do go to replace it, they're going to need to bring in a crane to get it all the way up on the roof. That crane cost can be anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000 depending on the unit. So if you are buying a house and it does have an AC unit on the roof, nothing to worry, no major cause for concern. But if it is older, you're going to want to see and do everything you can to make sure that that seller is giving you either concessions or some credit, especially if that unit is older, to help you offset some of those costs. And that's the stuff that we negotiate for you during the inspection period. Hey, this is older and this is going to cost not only the AC unit, but we got to get somebody to get a crane up here. So if the AC unit is on the roof, just know when you go to replace it, it's going to be a little bit higher extra cost for getting everything replaced up on the roof. Moving on, this is very unique to, I don't know if it's just in the Phoenix area. California, I could see them having it, but it's not uncommon, especially in older homes, to see the washer and dryer located in the garage. When I first saw it, I was like, man, that's pretty interesting. I don't know if I want my clean clothes getting washed and dried out by where the car is and all that dirt and all the other stuff. But honestly, the more I thought about it, is if you bring it in and you have it dry inside and it's just washed outside, it's honestly kind of nice because it keeps your house a little bit cooler. You don't have the heat from the dryer and the washer generating more heat inside, as well as it keeps the house a little bit quieter too because all of that noise is in the garage. So especially if you're buying a house in the central and older part of Phoenix, I just know that the garage might have or honestly the carport, because there wasn't a lot of garages at the time. So a lot of the units are going to be either in the garage or they're going to be in the backyard. So if you're buying a house down here, don't be thrown off when you see that. Just know you'll remember from this YouTube video that, that's not too uncommon that it is in either the garage or the backyard. More and more we're starting to see, some in the Midwest we'd call it a mud room, right? Where you walk in through the living room, you got cabinets and the washer dryer. So we're starting to see that more often, but just know that if you're buying a house down here, it's not uncommon to see it in the garage or the backyard. So for number 5, the more that you think about it, the more that this actually makes sense. But if you're buying a home down here, ideally you want to try to aim for a 1-story just to help you save on some costs for utilities. The AC bills in the summer can get super, super high, especially if you have a 2-story house. Think about it. If you walk in and you have a tall, open, 15, 20-foot ceilings, all that heat, it's just going to be wasted space that your house is trying to cool. So when you're buying a house, just know that a single story is going to do a little bit better on AC unit and your utility costs and electricity costs when in the summertime, just because, you know, heat rises here. So again, I'm from Nebraska, so like in the basements would be freezing cold because obviously cold air, you know, drops. So in the winter time, it was always freezing in the basements. Same thing on the vice versa here in the summer. If you have a 2-story house, just know that the upper story in the summer, it's gonna get a lot hotter than the downstairs. So a lot of homes, if you have, you're gonna want, ideally you want 2, you know, separate AC units, one for the downstairs, one for up. That way you can kind of control the areas better. If not, just get sensors in each of the rooms. That way your AC unit knows that, okay, it's getting a little hotter upstairs, we need to pump out some more AC. So if you are buying a house and a 2-story down here, just know that your AC costs are gonna be a little bit higher than they would be if you are buying a single story like the one behind me. Now guys, moving on to number 4. Guys, this one is, honestly, I should have probably moved this to number 1. It is so important. So a lot of homes down here are gonna be tile roofs and clay roofs. Now, the good part and the good thing is that these roofs can last anywhere from 40 to 60 years depending on, you know, how well they happen. A lot of times, some of the clays, they'll just slip a little bit. So you just get a roofer up there and get them back to protect that underlayment. But if you are buying a house and it's about 20 to 25 years old, what you're gonna do is they're gonna replace the underlayment. So this is a sheet of paper that protects the wood and in between the shingles and the wood of the house. So what they'll do is, and this paper only lasts about 20 to 25 years. So what they gotta do, they gotta go take all of those shingles off, rip that paper off, and then put a new piece of paper on and put all those tiles back on. So it can be quite an extensive process. A lot of times we see the cost in between, you know, $15,000 to $30,000 to $40,000 depending on how big the house is. So if you're buying a house in here and it's 20 to 25 years old, just know that that underlayment is probably going to be shot and you might be looking at a higher expense. Now the good thing is that you do get that 10-day inspection period. So if you find a house and, you know, the underlayment is definitely at the end of its life, a lot of times we can either get the seller to pay for, you know, 50 to 75% of it. Most of the time the seller's like, well, it's still operational, there's nothing wrong, it's just older. You're not gonna get a full underlayment unless it's completely shot. So just know that if you're buying a house in that 20 to 25 year range, that you're gonna be looking at a hefty roof expense down the road. So just make sure during the inspection period that you know roughly what the age and condition is of the roof, because this is very, very common, especially we saw a ton of growth here in the 90s and early 2000s. So that paper is coming due. In a lot of homes that we're seeing right now, they have faulty underlayment. So if you're buying a house down here, it is something that you absolutely must plan for and must budget for. It's gonna be about $15,000 to $30,000 depending on the condition. So if you're buying a house, just make sure that you absolutely know that before signing the dotted line. Now guys, we got 3 left. Again, if you like this video, guys, click the like button and comment down below. I wanna know your thoughts on my video so far. And again, if you're thinking about making a move, guys, pause the video and jot down our contact information. We wanna help you move into your new home here in Phoenix, Arizona. So moving on is number 3. Now, one thing to very much consider is you hear a lot of, okay, so how's the foundation, right? If we bought a house in Nebraska, you always want to know how's the foundation of the house because they dig so far into the ground. Guys, here in Arizona, they're only required to dig 18 inches below this ground for the quote-unquote foundation. Most of the construction is block, so it just sits on one sheet of concrete. So a lot of times you don't really see a lot of, you know, like quote-unquote foundation issues. What you'll find is that you do get a ton of houses that they settle once they're initially built. So you will see some hairline cracks along like the roof in the drywall, kind of that corner area where they meet. But a lot of times the foundations down here are very solid because it's literally just they dig down 18 inches and then they stick the home on top of that on the slab of concrete. So there's not as much, you know, foundation issues here, but just know that the ground here is it settles a ton. It's very, very loose soil. So the ground is hard, the soil is loose. This isn't obviously my specialty, I know enough to be dangerous, but just know that if you're buying a house down here, you're gonna see a lot of hairline cracks in a lot of the drywall and especially some of the drywall roofing. So don't be alarmed if you're shopping around and you're seeing a ton of cracks in homes. Don't worry, the foundation is usually solid. It's just gonna have some hairline settlement cracks. Now guys, number 2, we got 2 left. This is extremely, extremely important and I can't believe how low it still is. And you talk about cost of living here in Arizona, it is so cheap compared to other areas of the United States when you own a house, and because property taxes are so affordable. So for example, there's a house that's up for sale in Scottsdale, 1.7 million, 4,400 square feet, absolutely beautiful. Guys, their yearly taxes are $6,600. That is absurd. I have a little 1,500 house in Omaha. It's probably worth maybe around $250. Guys, we pay $3,800 in taxes. So the fact that you can come down here, and Scottsdale is one of the more expensive areas for property taxes. If you want to live in like the Chandler area, same thing. There's a $1.2 million house for sale right now. It is 4,400 square feet. Guys, the property taxes for the year are $3,800. That is absolutely absurd, and you are not going to find that anywhere else. I guess I shouldn't say anywhere else. But for being in the greater Phoenix area, and you can live in a top 10 metro and pay taxes that cheap, that is going to be an amazing, amazing thing to consider when buying your home down here in Arizona. So yes, you know, the cost of living and the cost of houses have definitely gone up. But guys, all things considered, you can get a $500,000 house with $250 in, you know, your home insurance and super cheap taxes, $2,000 to $2,500 a year in taxes. That's all things considered. It's pretty good. So depending on your budget, just take a look at how affordable the property taxes are. It is completely unheard of, especially moving here from Nebraska. It blew my mind how cheap property taxes are here. So a huge thing to consider when, you know, purchasing a home down here. Property taxes are going to be your friend. They're very affordable. Hopefully they stay that way. But for right now, you can get, you know, yes, the home prices are going to be higher, but the cost to maintain it with the property taxes and your home insurance is going to be much, much lower than other areas in the United States. All right, guys, we saved the best for last. If you are moving here from the Midwest and especially the Northeast or anywhere honestly north, and you love having like a man cave or like your basement area, Arizona is not going to be the spot for you because the ground, as we just talked about a couple back, it is very, very hard. They call it caliche. I'm not exactly sure exactly what it means. I don't know if it's the type of dirt or if it's the ground or what it is, but it's very, very, very expensive to dig into it. It's very, very hard. It's a very, very hard and clay substance. And so that is one of the main reasons why most homes down here do not have basements. I've been selling homes for about 4 years here. I think I've only walked in 2 homes that I've seen that have actually had a basement. And the client, there were way more issues that went along with it. The client was like, I'm out of here. I don't want anything to do with it. So if you're buying a house down here, just know basements are going to be extremely, extremely rare. A lot of times what you'll see like lofts, or you'll see like rooms on like the first floor that you can kind of close off like an office. But just know that for the most part, you're not going to see any basements down here. It's kind of a, you know, growing up in Nebraska, you always had that area where you could like mess around with your friends and stuff like that downstairs. You had privacy. Not going to be the case here in Arizona unless you get lucky and find a house with a basement. So guys, that wraps it up, our list of items that you absolutely must know when purchasing a home down here in the Phoenix, Arizona area. Again, guys, if you like this video, click the like button, comment down below. And if you are thinking about making a move, this is what we do. We changed our entire career to help people just like you that are thinking about moving to the Phoenix, Arizona area because of how much we love it. So guys, pause the video. Our contact information is down below. Thanks for watching, and check out the other videos on our channel about everything there is to know about moving to Phoenix, Arizona.